It's the midweek edition of the program. Welcome to Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago. On the program today, Royal Dutch Shell lifts force majeure on exports of Nigeria's 4 cargoes crude oil. South Africa-based retail group Stenoff International reports a 13% rise in half-year operating profit and a 48% jump in revenue. Plus, it's 24 hours to the super-duper Thursday as the global market await the UK election, a European Central Bank review, and former FBI Director James Comey's testimony to the Senate stateside. Let's get started now with the markets. And here in Africa, profit-taking continued at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, with the all-share index down 1.30% at intraday. The Johannesburg number is also looking down 0.05%. Egyptian Stock Exchange, of course, was looking up 0.12%. Kenya closed 0.92% down on Tuesday. In the Middle East, Qatari shares that are members of global emerging market benchmarks helped stabilize the bourse, while Dubai's Emaar Properties jumped on news it will launch an international public offering of its local real estate unit. Qatar's stock index was roughly flat at 1.04% at intraday after plummeting 8.7% over the last 2 days when Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain cut diplomatic and transport ties, accusing Doha of backing terrorism. In Dubai, shares of the largest listed real estate developer, Emaar Properties, surged 6.4% after it said it plans to offer up to 30% of its United Arab Emirates real estate development business in an initial public offer. Now, the company said the IPO will be Dubai's largest since its flotation of Emaar Malls, which raised 5.8 billion dirhams in 2014 and was heavily oversubscribed. The Dubai stock index was up 2.52% at intraday. In Abu Dhabi, the index was down 0.14%, and Saudi Arabia's index barely moved, with 29 shares rising and 28 falling in the first half hour of trade. But at intraday, the index was up just 0.01%. And bourses in Europe turned slightly higher in early trade, though investors opted for less risky options ahead of the UK election and a European Central Bank meeting. Let's talk more on some of the latest developments in the markets today. Let's cross over to Frankfurt. My colleague Conrad is waiting. Now, Conrad, the biggest market story today is Santander's acquisition of Banco Popular for €1. And, of course, it plans to raise 7 billion euros to prop up the troubled Banco Popular. What will this acquisition deal mean for both banks?
Well, for Banco Popular, the bank that had so many bad loans in its books, this means that bankruptcy could be avoided. The problems for the bank were so that it was considered to be impossible for the bank to raise fresh capital on its own, and this means it was unable to really fulfill the capital requirements which were introduced after the financial crisis for the banks. In the case of Banco Santander, well, of course, at first sight, paying €1 only for a bank that is considered to be foul doesn't look like a very good deal. Still, the share price of Santander is down only between 1 and 1.5% today, despite the fact, as you said, that Santander has to take on fresh capital in order to finance this deal, 7 billion euros. But Banco Popular didn't only have bad loans in its books, it also had lots of assets which are worth something, and Santander announced that it is immediately planning to sell many of those assets, mostly real estate property in Spain, and also the real estate arm of Banco Popular is being sold. That's what Santander said today. And obviously, investors believe that this is not such a bad deal for Santander.
Well, there seems to be a lot of deals going on today. This time, it's about Germany's Bayer saying it has cut its direct stake in Covestro to 44.8%. That's Bayer's former high-tech polymers business that was floated in 2015. How would this impact Bayer's plans to tie up with U.S. Monsanto?
Well, this sale is an important part of Bayer's plan to finance this takeover of Monsanto. After all, Bayer wants to spend 66 billion euros for Monsanto, and you cannot just go to the bank and take on a loan of such a high amount. You have to have own capital in order, to take care of your credit ratings and be considered a financially sound company. So something like that, like this sale of the Covestro share that Bayer held, was to be expected. And, it's not a given that it's negative for Bayer, because now that Bayer has given up its majority stake in Covestro, the likelihood that Covestro will become a member of the most important German share index, the DAX, is higher. You need a certain amount of free float of your shares in order to become a DAX member. Now, if this happens, if Covestro really eventually becomes a member of the DAX, this would automatically mean a higher value because it gets more market attention. Funds do invest in DAX companies more. So, for Bayer, this could eventually mean that despite the fact that it has a lower stake in Covestro, this lower stake would be worth more than what, it is now.
Right, and of course, the economic data coming in today shows new factory orders in Germany down more than expected in April. Now, what spooked this important manufacturing index?
Well, Jimmy, Easter spooked the factory orders this year, because Easter this year was in April. Much, much later than Easter in 2016, which was in March. So the comparison of the April numbers of this year to the April numbers of last year had to show a decline. Still, this decline was larger than what economists had forecast, and that's why a few investors out there today are seeing this decline of factory orders, or those smaller factory orders, as a warning sign. I can tell you, on the other hand, a majority of the people on the markets believe that, this is only temporary. Factory orders have a tendency to be a bit shaky from month to month. The general order situation, the order books of German companies are pretty full, so that there is no concern about production in the coming months, and business sentiment remains high. So there is more reason to be upbeat for the economy than to be downbeat.
Well, thank you very much for those updates. I'm sure you, as well as those of us here, we're looking up for tomorrow's Super Duper Thursday. 3 events happening. We'll keep our eyes on it, and of course we'll talk more on that tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the day, Conrad.